Ever try to save a few bucks on a cheap countertop ice maker, only to find yourself with misshapen cubes that melt faster than a summer popsicle? I've been there, staring at a half-filled tray of tepid ice while my guests are already asking for a refill. The regret of that false economy is what makes me pause before I click Add to Cart on any ice machine. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So today I'm looking at the Hoshizaki AM50BAJ, a 15-inch built-in, self-contained unit that promises commercial-grade output without the need for a full-size kitchen. The question is whether it actually feels like a smarter by compared with the lower-priced models that end up collecting dust. First off, let's talk about the kind of people who even consider a built-in ice maker. If you run a small bar, a coffee shop, or you just love hosting weekend parties where the cocktail menu is more than vodka and juice, you need ice that's ready on demand, not something you have to pre-make in a freezer. The Hoshizaki can churn out up to 51 pounds of ice in a 24-hour period, which translates to roughly 12 to 15 pounds per hour. In real-world terms, that's enough to fill a standard party punch bowl in under an hour, and you won't be scrambling to refill the bin every 10 minutes. For a home user who entertains regularly, the capacity feels generous without being excessive. On the flip side, if you're a single professional who just wants a few cubes for an evening glass of whiskey, this machine is more than you need and will sit idle most of the time. Installation is the first hurdle that scares off many potential buyers. Unlike portable countertop units that you can just plug into a wall outlet and pour water into a reservoir, the Hoshizaki is a built-in model that expects a permanent water line and a dedicated 115-volt circuit. The unit comes with a 6-foot cord and a NEMA 515 plug, which is handy because you can plug it into a standard kitchen outlet, but you still need to make sure the water source is correctly connected and that there's enough clearance behind the appliance for ventilation. The manufacturer rates it UL approved for outdoor use, so a patio bar or an outdoor kitchen setup is feasible, but you'll have to protect the plug from the elements and ensure the unit sits on a level surface. If you're comfortable with a bit of DIY plumbing or you have a contractor handy, the installation isn't a deal breaker. Otherwise, the extra cost of professional setup could push the total investment higher than you expected. Now, the ice itself. Hoshizaki produces what the industry calls top hat cubes, essentially a small, cylindrical shape with a flat top. They're larger than the standard ice cube from a home freezer, which makes them melt slower and stay cooler longer. In practice, that means your margarita stays chilled without getting watered down, and your iced coffee stays refreshing for the full sip. I've heard from several small-scale food service operators that those cubes also stack nicely in a cooler, maximizing storage space. Speaking of storage, the built-in bin holds about 22 pounds of ice, so after a busy rush you have a decent reserve before the next batch drops in. The downside? The bin is fixed, so if you ever need to accommodate a larger volume for an event, you'll have to run the machine longer, which adds to electricity use. Speaking of electricity, the unit runs on a single-phase 115-volt line, which is standard for most residential kitchens, but it does draw a noticeable amount of power when it's in production mode. In a typical home setting, the cost increase on your utility bill is modest, but if you're running it continuously for a full day in a commercial environment, you'll want to factor that into your operating expenses. The unit does make a low hum sound while producing ice. It isn't a scream, but it's audible enough that you probably wouldn't want it humming behind a quiet dining area. For most bar setups or outdoor installations, that noise level is acceptable, but a quiet home bar might notice it. Let's get into the practical strengths that make the Hoshizaki stand out. The production rate is the headline, and it really does hold up under real-world pressure. A small restaurant that serves a steady flow of drinks can rely on the machine to keep the ice bin topped without a backup freezer. The fact that it's a self-contained unit means you don't have to worry about separate condensers or complex refrigeration loops. Everything is packaged inside the 15-inch chassis. The UL Outdoor rating adds flexibility. You can mount it under a covered patio or a kitchen island, and the stainless steel finish holds up against splashes and occasional spills. Another practical perk is the plug-in design. Many built-in commercial ice makers require hardwired connections, but this one simply plugs into a standard outlet, which can save a few minutes of wiring work. On the flip side, there are some hidden trade-offs. The size of the unit, while compact for a